ever imagine, like yourself, brokering a deal for a whole fleet of bulldozers,
Wow.
or maybe even like a massive cargo ship?
Yeah.
Buckle up, because today's deep dive, we're going into this high-stakes world, right,
Yeah.
of wholesale merchants. But these are merchants who are specializing in the big ticket items. We're
Absolutely.
talking machinery, industrial equipment,
Ships.
ships.
Even aircraft.
Oh, yeah, even aircraft.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a global marketplace here where deals, I mean, they don't just make a company, they could break a company.
Yeah, these are career-defining, company-defining deals. But it's not just about salesmanship. I mean, and that plays a huge part, obviously, but you need a really, really deep understanding of all these different industries,
Right.
the players that are involved,
Yeah.
and the ebb and flow, the constant sort of, you know, supply and demand of
A lot to keep track of.
all these different sectors. It's a lot.
And that's why we are so lucky to be diving into this with some insights from RoleCatcher's career guide
Yeah.
on what it takes to actually become one of these wholesale merchants in
Uh-huh.
this very specific niche.
Yeah, it's like having a cheat sheet
Is
for a career most people just dream about.
Yeah, it's wild. And this guy doesn't mess around.
Yeah.
It like dives right into the deep end.
It really does. And one of the things I thought was really cool about it was it talked about, it actually gave a specific anecdote about a wholesale merchant who helped a construction firm in Dubai secure a fleet of these really specialized excavators for a massive, massive infrastructure project.
Oh.
And this was like the kind of deal that reshapes skylines. We're talking like serious stuff here.
Yeah, this is not your local used car lot.
No.
This is a whole other level, and that actually is a great transition because I was picturing, you think wholesale merchant, you think okay, somebody in a suit, maybe on the phone,
Right.
but the guide emphasizes that today's wholesale merchant, like they have to be incredibly tech savvy.
Oh, absolutely.
This is not your grandfather's.
It's not at all like gone are the days of just relying on a handshake and like your gut intuition.
Right.
This is like serious data analysis, CRM software, digital marketing. It all comes into play. You've got to be really comfortable using all these tools to analyze market trends, manage your client relationships, even like predict future demand.
So it's like you're almost like a cross between a Wall Street analyst and like, I don't know, a master negotiator who
Exactly.
closes these massive deals.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's what surprised me, though, was how much the guide emphasized this relationship side of things.
Absolutely. It's huge. And it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
This isn't just a purely transactional kind of business.
Right.
Building trust is so important, especially when you're dealing with equipment that costs, millions and millions of dollars.
Of course.
Companies, they want to work with someone they know they trust, somebody who they know is going to deliver on what they're promising.
So it's not just, okay, you're crunching numbers in a spreadsheet and then you're just, firing off emails all day.
Yeah.
Like you actually have to get out there. You've got to be meeting these clients.
Absolutely.
You've got to be visiting the factories.
Kicking the tires on a bulldozer,
Oh,
too.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe even a cargo ship. Who knows?
Maybe inspecting a cargo ship. Exactly.
Huh.
And the guide, it really emphasizes that. They say, this is a career that definitely involves a good amount of travel, a lot of it international.
Okay.
So think like site visits, attending industry conferences,
Wow.
really immersing yourself in the specific world, whatever it is you're dealing in.
So speaking of immersing, let's dive into the day-to-day realities of what this career path actually, looks like. Is it all private jets and champagne celebrations?
Well, there might be a little bit of that sprinkled in. But, realistically, according to the guide at least, you can expect a pretty typical office environment for, a good chunk of the time.
Okay.
Of course, when you're not traveling, you're probably going to be glued to your computer, right?
Yeah.
Analyzing that market data, you're negotiating those contracts, you're coordinating with suppliers, clients, often across different time zones.
Right. Yeah.
So it can get pretty hectic.
So it sounds like, a lot of juggling, a lot of strategizing.
Yeah,
It sounds demanding, but it also sounds, pretty dynamic.
for sure.
Let's talk career trajectory. Like, how does somebody even like break into this world?
Right.
And then what does that path look like to get to the top?
Yeah, and the guide actually, it lays it out really clearly. And they say that, you're going to be starting with an entry-level position, something like a wholesale merchandising assistant.
Okay.
And they even say, think of it kind of like your boot camp.
Boot camp.
Yeah.
So more like coffee runs than, champagne toasts at this stage.
Probably.
Yeah.
But no, but really they emphasize how important this stage is because, you're really soaking up all that knowledge. You're starting to build your network.
Right.
You're assisting those more senior merchandisers. You're learning all the ropes of the industry.
Yeah.
You're really getting a taste of just how fast-paced the world of wholesale really is. There's this one example profile of a former assistant, and they talked about how they spent months like analyzing shipping routes, which sounds kind of, sounds kind of dry, I guess.
Tedious. Yeah.
But they actually used all that knowledge that they got from doing that to later secure this like major deal.
No,
So
proof that those seemingly tedious tasks can really pay off
totally.
big time.
Yeah.
So okay, so you've mastered the art of the spreadsheet. You've perfected, your coffee making abilities.
Right.
What's next?
So then you're climbing that ladder, right? So you become a full-fledged wholesale merchandiser, and this is where you really get to spread your wings a little bit. You're identifying leads, you're developing sales strategies, you're negotiating deals. Like you're really in the thick of it now.
Okay, so you've gone from assistant to deal maker.
Exactly.
That's a crash course in business, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the pressure's got to be on at that level.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, the pressure is definitely on. But you know what they say, with great responsibility comes
Good reward.
their great reward. Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is where all those negotiation and sales skills that we've been talking about, they're really put to the test here.
Right.
And the earning potential really starts to, reflect that, the skills that you're bringing to the table. And the guide, it talks about how there's two main paths that you can take once you've proven yourself as a merchandiser. So you can either become a senior wholesale merchandiser, or you can kind of transition more into a management role, like a wholesale merchandising manager.
Okay, so you've got some decisions to make at that point. What's the big difference between those two paths?
Yeah, so as a senior wholesale merchandiser, you're usually handling those bigger, more complex deals.
Okay.
So thing like maybe international clients, really specialized equipment, way larger quantities.
No.
You might even lead a small team of those more junior merchandisers.
Right.
Mentoring them, sharing your expertise. It's that natural progression for somebody who really, really just loves the thrill of making deals and just wants to keep honing their skills in that arena.
So still very much in the game, but
Right, yeah.
with more experience, some more leadership.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about that management track? Does that mean you're trading in your negotiating hat for more of a strategic role?
Exactly. Yeah. So as a wholesale merchandising manager, you're thinking about the big picture stuff now.
Okay.
You're setting goals for the entire department. You're managing budgets. You're analyzing market trends to figure out, how to guide those strategic decisions.
Okay.
And you're making sure the whole team is operating smoothly.
So you've gone from, deal maker to decision maker.
That's a good way to put it.
That sounds like a whole other skill set that you would need there.
It is.
Speaking of skill sets, the guide mentions something called example profiles at each of these career stages.
Yeah.
What exactly are those and how are they helpful?
Yeah, so those example profiles, it's like you're getting a glimpse into the lives of real people who have actually had this job,
Right.
And it makes it so much more relatable, than just reading dry facts and figures.
Right.
There's one that really stuck with me. Her name was Sarah. She started as an assistant, just like we were talking about.
Okay.
And through I don't know, just sheer hustle and networking magic at all these industry events, she worked her way all the way up to a senior manager.
Wow, that's awesome. See, that's the kind of real life inspiration I think you need, right?
Absolutely.
When you're thinking about a new career path, because it's not just theory,
Totally.
It's just proof that it can actually be done. But, and let's be real, the job market out there, it's competitive.
Very.
What kind of advice does this guide have for, any aspiring wholesale merchants out there on how they can stand out, from everybody else who's also applying for these jobs?
Well, one of the things they really emphasize is just like the importance of never stopping like learning and growing.
Yeah.
Um, Even seasoned professionals, people who've been doing this for years, they're always going to industry conferences, they're reading about the latest technologies, they're expanding their networks. And because these industries, I mean, you think about it, machinery, shipping, they're always evolving.
Yeah.
You can't just like rest on your laurels, you know what I mean?
It's true. It's true. Like you can't just, um, you know, learn one thing and then be done. You got to keep growing. You got to keep learning. You got to stay ahead.
For sure.
Speaking of getting ahead, this might be a good time to talk about, all those RoleCatcher tools that are available.
Mhm.
Because the guide mentioned how valuable these are, especially, like we're saying, in such a competitive job market.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And they really do. They go way beyond, I think, what a lot of these other um, platforms and career resources offer.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they have this database of over 120,000 interview questions.
Okay, 120,000
I
questions.
know, right?
That sounds kind of intense. Are they prepping you for like every possible interview question imaginable?
Pretty much, yeah. And it's really cool because it's tailored, to all these different careers and skill sets. So you're getting the most relevant like practice possible, and it gets like even cooler than that.
Okay.
They have this AI tool, it's called Copilot,
Mhm.
and it basically analyzes like the job descriptions
Oh, wow.
and your resume to like anticipate what questions they're going to ask you based on, what you've said you can do and what they're looking for.
Oh, so it's like you have a personalized cheat sheet basically for each job interview.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's amazing. I could have used that
Oh, for sure. Me too.
back in the day.
Um, but it gets even better. So you can actually like record yourself answering these practice questions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then the AI analyzes, your delivery, the content of what you're saying, even your body language, and gives you feedback.
Okay, so it's literally taking the mirror out of practice your answers in the mirror.
Exactly.
Like it's a next level.
Yeah.
Okay, so but before you even get to that interview,
Yeah.
you got to get past like that first big hurdle, which is of course the resume.
Oh, yeah, the dreaded resume.
Yeah. So what kind of help does RoleCatcher give you on that front?
So they actually have their AI will score your resume based on the specific requirements from the job description.
Wow.
So you know exactly where you stand, what you need to tweak, to make it stronger, all that.
That's huge. So you're not just second guessing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, did I highlight the right skills?
Mhm.
Is this the right experience?
These-
This is like it's telling you. Okay. That's really cool.
And then to make your like whole job search even easier, they even have this like browser plugin. It's called RoleCatcher.capture.
Right.
And basically you can be on like LinkedIn or whatever,
Okay.
and you can see a job that you like. You can save it right into your RoleCatcher dashboard, so it's all like organized in one place.
That's really smart because you're not like disrupting your flow, right?
Mm.
You're just like you see it, you grab it, you save it for later. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to circle back to that.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
So just to wrap things up, like if somebody is listening to this, right, and they're intrigued by this whole idea of, a career where you're making these massive deals, you're working with machinery, ships, aircraft, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
Where do they even begin?
Honestly, I think like RoleCatcher is a fantastic place to start. Explore all those resources that we've been talking about. See what really piques your interest, and don't be afraid to think like beyond just this one specific career title, right?
Right.
Like the guide mentioned a bunch of other related career paths, like being a shipbroker or a commodity trader, which
It's all connected, right?
it's a whole interconnected world out there.
It is. And one final thought I just want to leave with our listeners is we've talked a lot about the, hard skills, right? Negotiation, you got to know the market, you got to be tech savvy.
Right.
But in a field as fast-paced and dynamic as this, what about those like soft skills?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think for me, like adaptability is key.
Yeah.
Because these industries are always evolving.
Right.
You have to be able to like roll with the punches, embrace new technologies, be a problem solver in a really fast-paced environment.
Totally. It's not just about like keeping up. It's about like staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
And honestly, that's a skill that like no matter what you do.
that translates.
So to our listeners out there, if any of this sounds appealing to you, if this sounds interesting, the high-stakes deals, the global
The
connections,
champagne on the cargo ship?
maybe a little champagne, yeah, on a cargo ship somewhere.
Exactly.
Um, check it out. Dive into the resources we talked about. Explore your options. You might find your calling.
You never know. And even if this exact path isn't for you, that's okay too.
Exactly.
Like the journey of exploration, figuring out what you're into, that's just as valuable.
Okay.
There's a lot of exciting career possibilities out there. Keep learning, keep growing, and see where your curiosity leads you.
I love that. Yeah. Keep diving deep.
Exactly.
Until next time.